So, hi everybody, and welcome back to C++ Source Series for Absolute Beginners. This is video 185, and in this video we want to continue with the keyword friend, which we started in our last video, and we talked about this friend function declaration. And if you understand this, then it's easy to understand the other syntax as well, because it's the same principle but in different use cases. So let's go to the syntax number 2 here, which is just a friend function definition. And when we jump into it, you can see the only difference here compared to the first syntax here is that the friend function is defined inside a class. So the first function, the first syntax was the friend function was outside of a class, and this function is not a member function and tries to access this class member. To do so, we have to make it a friend here, and now we have not defined it outside, we have defined the friend function inside. When I say defined, I mean we have now here this body as well inside. So what is here the difference? The difference is, first of all, this is strange. Why is this strange? Because normally when you see something like that, you could say, hey, when you are defining the function inside in a class, why you make it not a member? And the reason for that is this function, this friend function, what you have here, is still not a member. Let me show you what I mean with that. So it looks like it is created within this class. It looks like it is a member. No, it is still not a member. And you can check this here. Here in main, I can call this friend without an object, because normally if you want call, for example, this member here, you need to create this X object here. Let's create this type X and make here an object. And then you can use this variable here, which I called object, to call a member, right? That we learned so far in classes. Let me call, for example, object, and then I use the member access specifier, which is a dot in this case because it's not a pointer. I use this dot, and you can see it is showing me the public members. Careful, these are only the public members. This here on top, you can see there is no access specifier, which means they are by default private. To make them public for demonstration purposes, let's write here public. Public. And now when I try this again, you can see now this int is public accessible here. This member is accessible here because it is a member, but this one is still not a member. And that's why you can't see it here in accessible members. So you have to know this one is still a separate function, which is not here included in this class as a member, but it is defined in a class now. And what does this mean? Does mean if you want to call this function here, you just use it like it was defined outside of a class in the global space, which means you just use the function name here. So let's use it, friend, and you can see it pops up here, friend set, and now you can provide an object. I created here one. This is my object. And I need to provide a variable, a number or an integer. Let's call it here 5 for test purposes. And you can see this is working. And when I start now, there are no errors. This is doing something. And of course, I have not printed out this value. If you want now print out this value as well, you can make here a print out. Let's print something out here as it is, that we see something that indeed we have changed now this a value. And let's write here p point. And important here, that's very nice to show you as well. Important here, because this is a friend function. You can't write here a because you would write normally a, right, to access this variable here, and then, yeah, print out this a. But this is not working. And the reason for that is this is not a member. You have really use this parameter here, which is a reference to this class. All right, then we have to write p dot a. Right, this is very important to understand. If you understand that, that's nice. And now you can see when I call this again, whole stuff here one more time. Yes, it is indeed printing out 5, but like I said before, important is it is not a member. And the next thing what we have to consider, this one is a little bit irritating, I would say, for starters, because normally what you would make is, let me call this member function for a moment, because it's easier. Object, let's call here object, access specifier, let's call this set here, let's make here this number here for fun. And what I mean with irritating is when you use this dot here and you hover your mouse over this member, for example, this function here, then this tooltip gives you normally very nice information. For example, you can see, this function has no return type. It's a void function. It is in the class X because we have here this : which is our scope resolution operator, and we find the member set in this class X with this parameter. The problem now with this friend here is when I hover my mouse over it, as a beginner, this here tells me, oh, I have a function which is void. Nice, that's good. It is called friend set and has the parameter, these 2 parameters. But you would think now this one is anywhere defined in the global space. It is treated like it is defined in the global space, but you can see it is actually not defined in the global space. It is defined in this class X, which means if this class X disappears, whatever reason there is, let's make this disappear, we have a problem with our call here, because you thought, hey, that was in global X, only I deleted accidentally this one class. Now it's not working, and that we have to consider, right, when you do something like that. But here a reminder, this is a special case, I would say. Why say it is a special case? Because you should prefer this first syntax, I would say, because that makes more sense to define it outside, so that when this class disappears, it has no effect to this function which you are using, right? The only effect it has is that you have no access to this class, but when there is no class, then you don't need access to this class, and you can fix this easy. In this version, when the class disappears, you have a problem because your function is not working. And let's say this function you have also included in other classes as a friend, that can cause problems. So I would say you should not prefer this version here. This is not, but we have to know it, of course, as a starter. We have to learn it because there are cases where it is used. And when we see these cases, we have to understand it. That's why we talk about it. And here one more thing, what I want to point out, but shortly, because that needs to be made as an exercise. When we have here another class, let's copy this one here. And you want to integrate this one here now, because like I said, this is treated like it was defined outside in the global space. Of course, you can use this one in this class as well, but important, you can't use the definition. You are only allowed to use one definition in a CPP file. This is this special, yes, there is a special rule. It is called O101ODR. Let me write it down. This is O1 definition rule. It is shortcut with ODR, one definition rule. And one definition rule means just you are allowed to have one definition each CPP file, and the reason for that is this compiler must find the definition, and when you have now here two definitions, it would cause a problem, right? The compiler said, hey, wait a minute, you have here two definitions, which one I should use? And that is not allowed. That's why you have to decide where you want to use this. For example, I want to use it only here on top, and the other one you make just a function declaration. They are still connected, and then we have still other problems here because we are using only one CPP file. Then we have to make a function forward declaration here. Let's make it, and then we have assign here, of course, the other class here because we want access to it. We will skip this part here. I show you only a little bit problems, which we will do probably in exercises in future. And let's do this here as well. XY. So this is just to get access to this class, because now this function has access to the other class as well. For example, now I can use Y here. Let's make it. And when I use the dot, and I should access here, but you can see the dot is not working. We learned, okay, we can use this class forward declaration. Let's write it, because here we have class XY here, and here I want stop because here it looks like it works here, but you can see now I have access here. But careful, here is again a nasty thing. Let's make this for B so that we see we are indeed accessing this one here. So this Y is indeed accessing this one. You see we can access now this one, but here is something, here is a big problem, which I will not solve now in this video, because that we will, like I said, in the next exercises. And the problem is now, I have here made a class forward declaration, which means the compiler read this line and said, okay, this XY here, you have, you told me already in this file it is existing anywhere, but you have not provided right now, till now, at this point, this definition, because the definition you can see it's here below, but that's why we made this class forward declaration. But the problem is here that this class forward declaration works most time with declarations. It is not working with function bodies. And what I mean with that is, if you try now to use this Y here, and I'm trying to use this here, then the compiler will say, wait a minute, you made a class forward declaration to tell me that there is a definition, but this is just a hint for me. I still don't know this class definition in detail. And this here will cause a compiler problem, because it say, if you want use now to assign a value to this class here, because here we try assign to this B here, you can see YB the value 5, and we make this with our reference here, backwards assigning, then the compiler will say, no, I need the definition. Definition means I need first have scanned this whole definition and I know exactly what there is, and so on. At this point, it is just a class forward declaration, and this causes a problem. And how we solve this, we can now rearrange this here in this file. We can put it outside of this class and make it here anyhow available. But this part we skip in this video. But if you want to challenge yourself, you can try this and see if you can do that. And yeah. Oh, let's do this one. So B, what is that? What's that? Why is here still a problem? That's okay normally. All right, so that was not a problem. But if you want, you can challenge you that, because when I start this one, you will see the compiler will complain, and the compiler says here, this one here is not defined. This class forward declaration works only for declaration to give the compiler a hint there will be a class, but if you want to use that, you have to define it, and there are tricks. And one more info about this one. In future, there is a very easy way to avoid all this kind of stuff, and the way is using just header files and CPP files, because if we have separate header files and CPP files which are including this declarations, then there will be not this problem. So this problem occurs only when we try more or less to solve all in one file. You can see we have here one class, we have the declarations and the definitions, all things in one class. But don't worry, in future when we talk about header and CPP files, this kind of stuff will be solved in a more easy way. But like I said, if you want to challenge yourself, you can try to make this work here, but we continue now with a class. So again, let's go back here. Let's go back to our syntax. So what you have to think here in the second is, this is again considered as a separate function, which is in global space, but the strange thing, it is defined in a class. When this class disappears there and you have called it outside anywhere, you have a problem. That's why you should prefer the first one, because then the class can disappear. You still can call this one, and then you have problem. Then you can see what happens with these parameters directly. It's a little bit more the standard way. And yeah, there are still use cases for that. I think I make here a stop, and in the next video we will talk about not this one we skip, but here the last point, which is the 4, when we talk about classes who are friend of other classes. You can see here we make friend of other classes, and then we talk how they work to each other and how they are called, and I won't make there some examples again. And then we talk also about this one here in the next video, which is just how they are treated to each other, what is a friend and what is not a friend, something like that. And like I said, this template friends we will skip. We have not talked about templates, and you can see this is a big place, but template itself is a big topic and important topic, which we'll talk in future. So with that said, I hope you understand the second use of this friend. But like in my last video, when you read friend, this is the easiest way to remember. When you read friend, you have just to remember this is not a member of this class, because they just want access something in this class where they are put in. For example, here this friend is put in this class, so he won't access this data member. If you remember that as a starter, that's very good. And the other things is just training, and how to call them, how to use them, and no problem. With that said, if you have any questions, any complaints, any suggestions, or anything else, write it in the comment. And like all time, have fun, don't give up, and see you in the next. Bye.